why force a rape or incest victim to carry a pregnancy to term?
It doesn't require that at all because obviously it provides at least 6 weeks for a person to be able to get an abortion.
This week, we are breaking down the recent passage of the Texas abortion ban. And here to help us break down this issue is ALICE Miranda Olllstein, who covers healthcare for Politico. Get us up to speed on what was happening in Texas before the court made that ruling.
For decades, we saw states, conservative states that wanted to restrict access to abortion, really passing a lot more narrow laws, chipping away at that access. And then once you saw the Supreme Court and other courts really start to shift very far to the right under the Trump administration, after they appointed and confirmed hundreds of judges who have more conservative views on abortion, you saw states looking at those courts and saying, I think we can go a lot bigger. And it was sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick. And they started passing these more sweeping abortion bans. No abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy, 15 weeks of pregnancy, or in the case of Texas, after 6 weeks of pregnancy, which is almost a near total abortion ban, given that a lot of people don't even know they're pregnant until they're after that 6-week mark.
They did it at midnight with just less than 72 hours of debate, in Justice Kagan's words, and basically green-lighted a law that is blatantly against Roe v. Wade.
So this comes before the Supreme Court, and what happens?
The Supreme Court officially decided not to intervene to stop it from going into effect, and it's in effect today. The court released an official decision where the conservative majority, 5 justices, said, we think this should go forward. And an interesting sort of coalition of the court's liberal justices and Chief Justice John Roberts said, whoa, we should have blocked it. Texas set up this enforcement scheme where it's not the government enforcing the law and bringing charges against clinics for performing abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. They delegated that power just to regular citizens. The conservative majority really hung this on the procedural scheme and the enforcement mechanism and saying you just don't have the evidence needed to issue this injunction. Some of the dissenters were saying, this is clearly unconstitutional. This is ridiculous.
People have come to call these bounty laws. Is that the terminology that's being used? Because you're literally paying citizens a bounty to narc on people who are having an abortion.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about vigilantism. This incentivizes people to bring these lawsuits by saying that if you successfully sue someone for providing an abortion or helping someone get an abortion, you can win a minimum of $10,000. But what's interesting is that just the threat of these lawsuits has caused nearly all abortions in the state to stop. They don't even have to sue. It's just the chilling effect of the threat of it that's proving effective so far. I keep asking, both sides, both the progressive groups defending the clinics and the anti-abortion groups, are there any lawsuits that you know of yet? And they're all saying no.
What has the fallout been so far?
Basically, all abortions in the state have stopped. So people who need them either have to go out of state, take matters into their own hands in potentially unsafe ways. Some cross the border to Mexico in order to obtain what they need. Everybody is just sort of on the edge and wondering what's going to happen with the courts. There is ongoing litigation. Now that the law is in effect,
he believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their rights should be respected.
The Biden administration and Democrats on Capitol Hill have expressed outrage at this situation. What have they said that they will do?
They have the Justice Department looking at options for, protecting the clinics. Democrats in Congress say they want to take up this bill that would essentially make Roe versus Wade into federal law so that no matter what the Supreme Court does, those protections are firm.
70% of Americans want to see Roe versus Wade as the law of the land.
But even though there are probably the votes in the House to pass that bill, there are probably not the votes in the Senate. The path forward is pretty murky in terms of executive or legislative action, which is why there's so much anxiety about what the courts are going to do going forward.
There are a few campaigns going on right now. How's it playing out politically?
This has been a big mobilizing issue for Democrats in recent years. In 2018, when Democrats won back the House, that was around Donald Trump's appointing people to the Supreme Court and the threat to abortion rights involved in that. Same in 2020. I think it's going to be true for the foreseeable future, especially if there is a big Supreme Court decision on Roe.
There's been a lot of talk about copycat laws after the Texas law passed and survived this first round of Supreme Court scrutiny.
So far, it's just talk. We've heard that from South Dakota, Arkansas, and Florida. A lot of these state legislatures aren't going to reconvene for several months, and so they can't do this immediately. They might be able to talk about it and promise to do something, but they can't do anything immediately. And we're hearing that a lot of other state officials are taking a wait and see approach, because even though the Texas law has been allowed to go forward for now, it's very, very possible it still gets struck down, not just eventually, but soon.